So my pack was really designed to say, okay, as humans, we do things we're not supposed to, and we never read the instructions. And if we do everything wrong, will the pack survive? And you could run my pack over with a truck and it'll be fine. That was essentially the design criteria. So I did everything that EV designers weren't doing.
One of the cool things about being in this field is that it's always rapidly evolving. It's no secret that we need more power, and there are very bright people working to try and solve the problems we are facing. In this third part of our battery storage series, we're going to look at a potential future technology that could answer a lot of the concerns people have about energy storage. Now, it's important to preface that this new technology isn't a panacea by any means, but for some specific applications where energy storage is needed, it could be a great solution. This is Plugging In. I'm Barry Wygel. Welcome to Plugging In, powering our way to a brighter and healthier New York. I'm your host, Barry Wygel. Each episode on this podcast, we will discuss a different topic related to clean energy, explaining complex topics in a way you can understand. Become part of the community as we help to make a brighter and healthier New York.
As the sun crests on the horizon, a new day dawns in our state. A new hope for tomorrow is rising, a clean future we create. Tomorrow we breathe easier, tomorrow the skies are clear. Today we are plugging in, the future of New York is here.
Joining us on today's episode is John Williams. He is the CEO of Viridi, who has a solution to some of the concerns that we've been discussing about battery storage in previous episodes. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Barry. Great to be here.
So we've covered on our show before the need for battery storage, and we've talked about some examples of existing projects. So we don't need to lay kind of that groundwork. If you need more, you can listen to those episodes. But it's clear that when talking to people and looking into this issue, the number one concern that residents and town officials raise is safety when it comes to battery storage. So that kind of sets us up for where you come into this. So give me a little bit of the history of your company and what you do.
Yes, so the history of the company, we started this back in actually 2012. And the business concept, which was really a macro concept at the time, was as you looked at battery development across the U.S. and North America, so including Canada, about 98% of all engineering, development, product, vendor support was being directed towards passenger vehicles. The push was to electrify everything that uses a gas engine on the road and turn it into an EV. And in that push, the primary engineering protocol was range. We want the car to go farther because everybody had range anxiety and everybody said, well, if I run out of battery, what do I do? So in that push and in that design effort, density and weight became the two driving designs. Get more energy and less weight. So the way you do that is you pack more cells into a smaller space, and as you pack more cells into a smaller space, you kind of engineer out anything that weighs anything. So you engineer out the weight of the pack and the enclosure and the electronics and everything else. And you get down to a very energy dense, very well balanced by weight to energy pack system. So I just looked at that on a macro level and said, well, if all the smartest people in the world are trying to get 3% of the GDP, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I could probably succeed in the 97%. I got a chance over here. Right? I've got no chance over here. So literally that was the business decision. We just said, okay, let's move into the 97% of the market. And as we got into it, what are the issues? The issues are pack life. Like it has to be a 20-year asset because this is a product that's going to get depreciated with a building. And like a heating system, a chiller, a furnace, a hot water tank, right? Those are 20-year products. Okay, so if energy storage is going to be a building asset, it needs to be a depreciable long-term investment. Well, how do you do that? Well, that's really pack design. A EV pack without the cells in it weighs about 200 pounds, right? If you take the cells out of it. My pack without the cells weighs almost 1,000 pounds. So I'm 5 times as heavy as an EV pack without the cells. But you can also hit my pack with a fork truck. You can drop it off a loading dock. You can put it under 50,000 pounds of compressive force and you don't hurt it. So my pack was really designed to say, okay, as humans, we do things we're not supposed to, and we never read the instructions. And if we do everything wrong, will the pack survive? And you could run my pack over with a truck and it'll be fine. I mean, that was essentially the design criteria. So I did everything that EV designers weren't doing. I made it heavy. I made it modestly energy dense by using NMC chemistry, so we still have a very good energy footprint as far as space. But then we also made it fail-safe. So we designed an architecture inside the pack that we expect the cell to go into thermal runaway. And if that happens, we capture the energy and we prevent thermal runaway from becoming an event.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about the products that you offer.
So the primary product's a 50 kilowatt hour pack system. So I think the application is going to be pretty wide. So today, the primary application for that is in a string of 3. So it's 150 kilowatt hours that is mounted on a mobile energy system. And that is the product we have in the market most densely today. The customer who owns the most of those is Sunbelt Rentals. They own about 300 of those units that are in the market running today. But that same 150 kilowatt hour string, we also make in a building system. So we take it off the trailer and we modify it to connect to a building. So we have a 600 kilowatt hour system in a medical research facility that's permanently installed. We have, probably 25 megawatt hours of mobile systems running around every day. We have pack systems in small construction equipment that was part of our initial design and rollout. And we have traffic systems and a megawatt hour system, but everything builds off of a 50 kilowatt hour block, and then it scales up from there. So we're not great on grid scale, only because if you're putting this system in the middle of a field, the safety is less of an issue. But any place where you have grid connection in an urban area, like New York City or urban areas, we are incredibly competitive because you don't need additional fire suppression with our system. But think about this number. There's 1 million commercial meters in New York State today. So that includes schools, accountants' offices, hospitals, but there's 1 million commercial meters. If I put 600 kilowatt hours on 10,000 meters, that's 6 gigawatt hours of storage. And with our IoT, you can connect all of that through a VPP.
So when we look at grid scale, big projects, let's say the ones that are in urban areas, and then smaller projects down to maybe just above building level, but not the big ones out in the field, you're not developing those, right? You would work with a developer to actually site those?
Yeah, so we're a manufacturer, right? So our role in life is deliver a product, connect it through the IoT, and support that product throughout its life. Currently today in Buffalo, we can produce 3/4 of a gigawatt hour of storage annually. So we have automated capacity to scale. So when people say, oh, this is great, but it's a demonstration, that's not true either. We have more capacity to build batteries than any other organization in the Northeast.
Another thing that we should definitely mention is you're based right in here in New York. So tell me a little bit about your campus in Buffalo, what you're doing there, and how you recruit your workforce.
So we sit on a campus that turned 100 years old last July. So this General Motors facility was commissioned in July of 1923. It was officially opened. So it's kind of fun, right? You're on this great historic facility. And I think, Barry, what I try to do, and I did this in most of my career, is that when we talk about sustainability has a lot of different things, but if you're really going to be sustainable, it has to come all the way through your value chain. So if you're going to deliver a product that's sustainable, it's got to back up and be consistent all the way through. So if you take a campus that's pre-existing, like this automotive plant, we've now built out about 250,000 square feet of the plant for Viridi's production. But we're also in an area of the city that is, I'm going to try to say this in a way that is respectful of my neighborhood. It is the top of the list of everything you don't want to be the top of the list of. So single parent households, household income, basically social program participation, crime, just go down the list. And it's not because the people that live there don't want to be in a good neighborhood. It's because as the neighborhood got marginalized, it became difficult for the city to support all of those things that were going on and stop them. Today, we have about 130 people in the company. Almost 65 of them live within the 3 zip codes that surround that plant, and better than half of them walk to work. Of the 65, 50 and change had never had sustainable work in the last 10 years, had not had manufacturing experience, and hadn't participated in a 401k, a healthcare plan through their employer, or any of the things that many of us take for granted. They just hadn't seen. The other interesting thing, Barry, is they never used an electronic platform to search for work. They didn't know what Indeed was.
Right.
So in this shift to automation and kind of an electronic world, we've put fences around entire communities that never had the education to understand how to access that workforce. And look, we created a not-for-profit called Green Force. I should say we created it. We funded a group to start up a not-for-profit, and then we encouraged other groups to come in and donate, and they've got a pretty wide base now. And all that group does, what Green Force does, is they do everything an employer can't. So if somebody comes to me and they say, look, my kids need daycare, or I need bus passes, or I got to go to court because I have an alimony or a child support hearing, as an employer, you can't manage that, right? It's overwhelming. Like, there's no HR department big enough to do that. But as a not-for-profit, you can. So Green Force leans in on everything that is not strictly work-related. So if somebody comes to us and says, I tried to get here today, I'm late because, I say, because you go to Green Force, okay? And then Green Force is going to tell me if this really happened, if it's a legitimate issue, and if it is, they're going to help you fix it. And if it's not, you get 2 strikes. And if you hit your second strike, you're going to go back to Green Force, and you get a chance to retrain and come back again. So we don't fire anybody, but we do discipline and lay off. And if you get laid off, you can go back to Green Force and try it again. And we've, I will tell you, this has not been simple, but after 12 months, we're nearing an 80% retention rate in manufacturing.
Wow. Yeah, that's inspiring and something that could be replicated throughout New York. There's a lot of abandoned manufacturing facilities, and there's a lot of people that unfortunately fit those descriptions that are probably looking, and like you said, the fences are up. So there's got to be people that come in like yourself that knock those fences down or go around them. So let's talk specifically about the general public. They listen to this, they're like, wow, that's really cool. How can they support, or how can they make sure that your products are being implemented in New York successfully? And then I guess as a caveat, how could they support Green Force?
So I think for Green Force, we want to do this across the state. So if you were involved at all in workforce training or your community, or you want to try and replicate this, that's the Green Force model. And Green Force has a website. I'll get you that website so you can give it to your listeners. I think on the product side, none of us want to say no to renewable technology. Right? I mean, we need this in our economy, and we can do better, and we know we can. But it's okay to ask for renewable technology and safety. Those aren't mutually exclusive.
There's certainly a segment of these projects that it's a great solution. So excellent. Yeah, I wish you the best of luck.
And look, I appreciate you doing this. I know you have probably a long list of queued up participants for the podcast, so making time for us, I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Plugging In. I hope you learned something, and I hope you share this knowledge with someone else. It would be incredibly helpful if you leave us a 5-star review wherever you found this podcast. If there's a topic you would like us to cover in the future or have a question about clean energy, send us an email at podcast@aceny.org. You can follow us on social media using the links in the show notes, or consider joining our Clean Energy Supporters mailing list at aceny.org/support. Your support is crucial to creating a brighter and healthier New York. I'll see you next time.
As the sun crests on the horizon, a new day dawns in our state. A new hope for tomorrow is rising, a clean future we create. Tomorrow we breathe easier. Tomorrow the skies are clear. Today we are plugging in